So if you've seen Great Bridge on a map and you've wondered if you're moving here, is Great Bridge where I should move? It's one of the biggest parts of Chesapeake, but it also seems like one of the most mysterious. So what we're going to do today is talk about Great Bridge, talk about what's there, and also differentiate Great Bridge from other parts of Chesapeake that are also often compared with Great Bridge, so you can get an idea of if Great Bridge is a place for you to move or if there's another better place to pick in Chesapeake or Hampton Roads. So people often associate Great Bridge with Hickory and Grassfield school districts. Those are the three school districts that are the most popular and sought after in Chesapeake. They have the highest grades online. They're often in demand, and often then that leads to the higher sales prices for real estate. But people often, when they're moving here, they look on the map. And when you see Great Bridge and the words Great Bridge on maps, because of where it's located, it blends into other very popular in-demand areas. So it gets kind of confusing as to where Great Bridge is, where the other like Hickory Grassfield school districts are. So first I'm going to show you on the map where Chesapeake is, but also then define where Great Bridge is in relation to the other school districts and areas around Chesapeake, and then tell you what it feels like in Great Bridge. So zooming in, see Chesapeake right here. It extends all the way to the western branch side, but we're going to talk about the southern part. But now, if you look on Great Bridge, if you do a search for Great Bridge on Google Maps, you'll see that it actually is more towards the west side of Chesapeake, over into close to Deep Creek, into Grassfield School District. The actual school district of Great Bridge is not that. What the school district is, instead of I'm going to keep the red dots here. The roads, see Cedar Road. Well, there's Waters Road right here, Waters Road to the east, so over here. And then you got the Intercoastal Waterway, then south, so going further south here. And then over towards Hillwell Road, west, so this direction, there. And anything really kind of close down to where all the green is, where the undeveloped land is. This whole area here is what's considered the Great Bridge School District. And then a couple spots up north, up closer to the 464 interchange. You got a couple of neighborhoods here from Fernwood Farms, just right across there, right in here, ironically, across the waterway. So you got that, and then you have all this down here. So what you see on Google is not accurate compared to what the Great Bridge School District actually is. But when you're talking about Chesapeake has a specific vibe to it, especially on the south part. The south part feels extremely country and rural. And since the 50s and the 40s, you'll find houses, old houses, kind of a mom and pop shop type of vibe down in the southern part. But as time went on in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, more houses got developed. And even in the 80s and 90s, you see more houses right in the central part of what is the heart of Great Bridge. And I consider personally, I see where you see this Battlefield Boulevard North, this is the Great Bridge Bridge. Called that, over the Intercoastal Waterway. As you cross down across the bridge down to the south part, that to me is right into the heart of Great Bridge, or in the south rural part of Chesapeake. And in that area down further south from there, you see a lot of houses built anywhere from the 50s over into the 80s and 90s. But then as you get further down south, down closer to the edge of Great Bridge, you'd find that more newer houses were being built. Well, what happened? As you expanded out of this central part of Great Bridge, more houses being developed, which that means more people, which means more kids, which means overcrowding of the Great Bridge School District. Well, what you'll find is that the Great Bridge School District originally, when I grew up, that was all there was. There was no Hickory. There was no Grassfield. There was Deep Creek over on this western side. Then there was Great Bridge, which was a huge section of Chesapeake, because it wasn't as much there. But in 1996, Hickory School District was developed. This high school was built, number one. That was in the south part, right over here. Where's Hickory? Right here. Hickory High School is right here. Well, that was built in 96 to help with the overcrowding. Then in 2007, Grassfield was built over towards the west side of this Great Bridge area. So Great Bridge, the school district, kept getting fragmented to what it is today, which is this central area. So as the areas grew, the newer parts of the area kind of broke off into their own areas. Like Hickory now has a lot of newer construction in it because There are a lot more newer houses because Hickory kind of grabs more of the southern part, the rural part of, more rural now, of Chesapeake. But then going further on the other side of Great Bridge in the Grassfield School District, that area is similar. It pulls some from the area near Deep Creek, which is a little bit older, but it also has more, there's more newer construction over there too, on this side. But because the south part of Chesapeake was known as Great Bridge for so long, Great Bridge, the name stuck. So when you ask people in the area, where do you live? People that have been here for 40, 50 years would probably say Great Bridge, but even though they're not actually in the Great Bridge area or the Great Bridge School District, technically close to that bridge I was talking about, that's kind of, to me, the heart of Great Bridge, close to the city hall, where there are parades, local parades, small mom and pop shops. If you want to sound like a local, just understand that Great Bridge, number one, was a lot bigger of an area before, but it still is the heart, what I would consider the heart of southern Chesapeake. And if you say you live in Great Bridge or around Great Bridge, people will have a frame of reference to what you're talking about. So what's there? So the main thing to note is that there are several primary roads that you might live off of, and these are the ways to get out of the area. Number one is Battlefield Boulevard, which is the most popular, busiest, it has the most congestion. Food line, Kroger, grocery stores, mom and pop shops up and down here. It has like the residue of what the most commonly visualized old town feel is in off of Battlefield Boulevard. It's like an old small town main road. As you see, this is the food line. I used to go here in the 90s a lot with my friend Ken. A lot of strip mall action there. Going further up from there, you got a YMCA, which is right, where's the YMCA? There it is right there. There's the YMCA. You got church, you got some strip malls. Same kind of thing as you keep going up Battlefield Boulevard. There's some newer style office parks that have come up now too, but you're across from the Great Bridge High School, that was the original Great Bridge High School, which is right over here, and that's since moved. But this is like the historic section of Great Bridge that, a lot of stuff happened back here in the 50s and 60s. Very popular places like Taylor's Do It Center. You got Mr. Jim's, which is a good hot dog place. Going up, this is Johnstown Road. You see, this is classic southern Great Bridge. There's a really good coffee place in one of these buildings that got converted right here. What is it called? Yeah, this coffee place right here. I don't remember the name of it. Hickory Trading Company. There it is. I've been there a few times. That's very good. Then you've got Mount Pleasant Road. You've got Johnstown Road, and then you've got Cedar Road. All these roads here all are, I'd say, the most commonly used arteries that branch off of the central part of Great Bridge, which is Battlefield Boulevard. And if you're near one of these main roads, you can live in a neighborhood near there and not be too far off to getting all your essentials met. Which is one thing to keep in mind, is that in Great Bridge, you will feel like you're in the country, but you're not going to be too far away from your essentials, the things that you need on any given day. So off of these main roads, you got some houses that are on the main road. And you're like, well, why would I live on a main road? Well, these are houses that were built 60 years ago, back when these roads weren't that busy. But coming off of these roads, you have a lot of 60s, 70s, 80s, 50s neighborhoods. Hall Manor over here. You got Dove Acres, just where you zoom in right there. That's Dove Acres. If you're wondering what Dove Acres is, just not as many houses in here. So you got a little bit of a mixture of country. You'll find if you want the larger lot size, you could find some potential options in Dove Acres. Next to that is also Pines of Work, which is a lot different. You'll see more of those ranch style, but it feels more like an established neighborhood. These are also in the upper 4s into the low to mid 5s. Very established. I like it a lot. I mean, you're getting a little bit newer house compared to a place like Dove Acres or Wilson Heights. So a lot of the neighborhoods you'll find is that they all kind of blend together. It goes from one to the next to the next. There are some condos near here too. South Lake Circle, there's some condos here too in the 200s range. Higher condo fees, which is why you have a smaller asking price. You got Foxgate Quarter right next to that. You got Briarwood and Briarwood Meadows. All through here, you've got houses built like in that 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s time period. They kind of all blend together. And so you'll find you're going to be driving around, navigating through different neighborhoods just to get to another part of town. Going even closer to Great Bridge, the high school, over towards Johnstown Road. A great neighborhood, Cheshire Forest, one of my favorite neighborhoods in all of Chesapeake, which has an HOA, a pool. So if you want a pool, I would consider this neighborhood like in the 6s and 7s 7s, and maybe even higher than that if you get a larger one, because it's not a huge HOA, but if you do want that pool access, I'd consider that one a lot. Other neighborhoods I mentioned, I like Wilson Heights, which is right down the street from there, over closer towards Cedar. I like that because it's like nice brick ranches, 60s houses, 2,000, 2,500 square feet. You're talking 450 to 550 mostly. Talk about the Chesapeake Colony. Not as big a fan of parts of it because you need some flood insurance, but you can get them in there in the 4s and 5s also there too. Brick ranch and 2-story. But then going on to the eastern side, around the edge, still in Great Bridge School District on the hill, on west of Hillwell, I like being close to Battlefield Boulevard. There's a neighborhood called Castlewood Terrace, which if you want to stay under 450, 475, you want a house like 1,800, 2,000 square feet, I like this neighborhood a lot. You don't get huge lots, and the houses themselves aren't big. You get ditches in the sides of the roads. Not everybody likes that. But if you want to get a little bit more affordable and stay in Great Bridge and stay close to Battlefield Boulevard, I do like this neighborhood a lot for that reason. It's not fancy. You're not going to get a bunch of frills, but you're going to get functionality. You're going to get access to main stuff. A couple neighborhoods I also like a lot that I do think get overlooked a lot. One is Great Bridge Gardens, which is right here, kind of similar to Castlewood, similar kinds of houses, a little bit of a sneaky nook. Upper 3s could still possibly exist, but mostly you're going to be in the 4s. Nice brick ranches, most of them. You can see some 2-story as well, that kind of thing. Across the street is Bridgefield. This is another, if you want a little bit larger kind of house, not just like the Castlewood or like the 1,700 square foot type. These are going to be 5 and up usually, but they're going to be a little bit larger, like 2,000, 2,500 square feet and up. Still same kind of time period, which is going to see a trend here. Anything in the Great Bridge proper area is a lot of these are going to be in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. So you find this is just larger versions. Bridgefield has larger versions of places like Castlewood up closer to Battlefield Boulevard, and also coming out anything off of Hillwell Road. So there's some nice neighborhoods further south too. Even in the higher like the 7s and 8s, for example, Alexis Forest, a small one right here. The problem with coming through the neighborhoods like this is, and you'll find a lot of the houses that are newer will look like this, 90s, maybe 2000s, but mostly 90s, like these kind of starting to become more contemporary floor plans, more McMansion-y. You find a lot of that in the Great Bridge area. If you see newer types of houses, it's very, very classic. The problem is that when you get to the main road, this is Hillwell Road. Hillwell Road is busy, number one, which can be annoying if you live on Hillwell Road, which a lot of people do. The other problem, though, is that once you want to get out into the rest of town, there's one way out, which is at Etheridge Manor Boulevard, which you can do that, but you're going down away from the rest of town first and then going back up to the bypass, 168. The other way you can go is up Hillwell Road towards Mount Pleasant. And if you get on Mount Pleasant, the main thing is you're like, well, I can go up the bypass right here and I can get to the rest of town. The issue you run into is that I'm going to drop a pin, you can see the issue. There's a sign here. Where is the sign? Okay. You can't really see it. No left turn between 7 and 9 in the morning and 4 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. So what does that mean? You're going to get to, you see right here, this is the exit to 168. If you get to this spot and you want to get to merge and go to cross onto Mount Pleasant, you can't in the most important times of the day. You have to go up here, turn right on Mount Pleasant, and make a U-turn. So, for example, if you're in Bridgefield across the street, you don't have to do that. You just have to turn right. But if you're anything on the south part of Mount Pleasant and want to get to the bypass, that is an issue, and I think it's super annoying, and I don't think people realize that until they buy a house in the area and realize, oh, I can't get out of here as fast as I thought I could. That can be quite frustrating. So then once you come off of across Hillwell on the Etheridge Manor Boulevard, for example, or Mount Pleasant, this is all Hickory School District over here. And Hickory used to be very Great Bridge. If I was in the mid-90s, someone asked me, hey, where were you today? And I was in this area, I would say Great Bridge, and they would know what I'm talking about. That's now, I'd say, considered Hickory. And going down further south in this section, it's all Hickory. The houses it's very easy to feel like you're buying in one school district and you're not actually in it. So one suggestion is just be very careful as to when you buy a house in the area, or just get an address of where you're moving to in a specific part of Chesapeake, especially Great Bridge, Hickory, and Grassfield. Make sure you know what school district you're in. If you're going to high school, make sure if you're doing Great Bridge, make sure that it actually is in Great Bridge. Here's the drawback to being in this area that I feel like a couple of things. One is you're close to a lot of this stuff, but off Battlefield Boulevard, you're also getting close to that bridge. And so the Great Bridge can be super irritating. It rises frequently. 5-10 minute wait can be frustrating. You see like a lot of these cars going across, they can back up, and it's just an old town kind of metro center that has been since overcrowded, and getting through here can be frustrating. That's number one. Number two is that because your essentials can be met in this southern part in Great Bridge, like your grocery stores, your doctor's offices, your maybe even your restaurants, it can feel like you're secluded from the rest of the area. So you kind of have to go out of your way to go into places like Greenbrier, which is not that far. People do that all the time, but it's easy to kind of get secluded. Places like Virginia Beach or Norfolk, you don't have to necessarily go there unless you work in the area or want to. So it can be very easy to kind of feel insulated into the area that you live in. So not only are you in a suburb, but it feels like you're in a small town. So adding that to, lots of vacant land and not just seeing any downtown or a bunch of people, it can feel like, okay, did I make the right decision? Should I have moved somewhere else that's more in the middle of things? It feels like you're not in the middle of the action. But if that doesn't bother you, I think you're going to probably find that Great Bridge is a pretty good option if you want the access to other things. And you just, as long as you mentally know that the rest of the area is there, Virginia Beach and Greenbrier and Norfolk and the rest of Hampton Roads, it's not that far. It just feels far because all you see around you is like suburbs and rural parts of town. Now, one of the things that helps with the issue of just getting out of the area and feeling like you're disconnected is the Great Bridge bypass has really helped transform and make it easier to get to other parts of town from Great Bridge. 168. So number one is you can get to North Carolina in like 15-20 minutes now because of 168. Then going further towards the Norfolk area and Virginia Beach, that's what you would take, in my opinion, to get to those areas in 20-25 minutes. And it's not necessarily a long issue of driving either. You do have some clogged areas, but not a really big problem when it comes to stopping and going. Lots of stoplights. It's one main road to connect to the interstate to connect to where else you want to go. But hey, Sam, I wanted a new house in Chesapeake. I want the wide open space. Can I get that in Great Bridge? Well, the answer is almost no. Great Bridge, again, was the original epicenter of South Chesapeake, and so all the neighborhoods and expansion pushed out from there. So most of the areas that Great Bridge broke into in the Hickory and Grassfield, that's where those new houses mostly lie. There are a few little nooks and crannies in the very corner. A great example is maybe a 10-year-old neighborhood called Viridian Reserve, which is very close to the Route 168 bypass. This is one of the newer neighborhoods that you don't really see too many of these in the proper Great Bridge School District area. And so that, if you want this type, there aren't too many like this. I would say consider Viridian Reserve if you want to be in Great Bridge School District and want this type of house. Otherwise, you're going to be going further south into the Hickory and Grassfield school districts to find the more frequent options for neighborhoods that have newer houses in them. Even going further north up into the Grassfield school district area off of Bell's Mill, there's more in that area as well. So not really as much in the Great Bridge proper, the Great Bridge school district itself. And then you ask yourself the question, okay, well, what about flood insurance? You mentioned other parts of town. Well, I'd say most of the Great Bridge school district area, the Great Bridge area itself, does not really need flood insurance. But if you get over towards Bell's Mill, cross into near Cedar Road, closer to Tidewater Community College, there are some places in the back corner here near Sunlight Drive, for example, over towards Deepwater Drive. There are some neighborhoods that do need flood insurance. You'll even see some houses on Deepwater Drive that have been raised up because of the flood insurance concerns. So if you're closer to the water, I'd say be more aware of the chance of it. As you get away from that main waterway, you're not going to see too much of it. Maybe very, very specific instances, very rare, but I would say for the most part, not a huge deal. But if you want that secluded, you want that old, rustic, small town feel, but you also want to be in suburbia and not too far away from the rest of the stuff, I do think Great Bridge is a great option. But if you easily feel secluded, if you could be like in suburbs, in that rural part, but not too far away, but it just feels like it, if the areas around you really affect how you feel about how close you are to things, it might feel like you're in the middle of nowhere because you're surrounded by a lot of farmland, a lot of old town feel, a lot of old strip malls, just things that make you remind you that you're not in the middle of a new blossoming part of town. So if you're interested in moving to Great Bridge or other parts of Chesapeake or Virginia Beach through Hampton Roads, let me know. That's what I do. I love helping people relocate to the area. So if you have any questions, I've got my contact information in the description. You can call me, email, text me. You can ask me anything you want, and I'll do whatever I can to help you relocate to the area. And I will see you on the next video.